The legacy of the occupation of the Malheur Wildlife Refuge in Oregon is a pile of shit, literally. The FBI released a report on the effects of the standoff with the Oregon militants on the grounds, of course, the bird sanctuary, and in it, they document how they had found a trench filled with human feces. Well, boy. Now, that's bad enough, right? But where they found the trench is even worse. The trench was either on or next to a sensitive cultural site with artifacts belonging to the Burns Paiute Tribe. Oh no. Oh no, man. That's not... Look, as if the native people hadn't suffered enough. If they hadn't suffered enough, here comes another group of crazy white people with guns to literally shit on your history. Oh, disaster, man. What are you doing? What are you guys thinking? Anyway, the filing came after the FBI on Friday said it was working with the Burns Paiute Tribe to identify damage to the tribe's artifacts and sacred burial sites. So once again, this was Native American territory, right? We set that aside for the Native Americans and put a federal building on it. And then, of course, once again, here comes the Al-Qaeda in there to occupy the building and then shit on their history. As if I did not like these guys enough. Here's another reason for me not like the Bundy clan. Shitting on Native American history, man. That's low. Now, I'm sure maybe they didn't know. Maybe. They're a bunch of drunk yokels begging for snacks. But nonetheless, the damage they caused, they could have destroyed priceless Native American artifacts in their quest to fight the federal government. Oh, Jesus. Now, U.S. Attorney Billy Williams of Oregon wrote that, quote, the occupiers appear to have excavated 2 large trenches and an improvised road on or adjacent to grounds containing these sensitive artifacts. Now, Williams also said in the filing that firearms and explosives were found, and it was feared that vehicles and buildings could also be booby-trapped. All right, so let's stop right there, right? They found guns, and they found bombs. Does this seem like a peaceful protest movement to you? Guns and bombs. When you're doing a peaceful protest, for example, in Ferguson, you didn't bring guns and bombs. You don't bring guns and bombs to a protest. You bring guns and bombs to an armed insurrection. And what did they say it was terrorism? No, of course not. It's not domestic terrorism. No, it's patriotism. It's watering the tree of liberty. It's bullshit. It's ridiculous. It's a bunch of privileged white right-wingers carrying around guns and saying, no, we're going to take this land that actually, to be honest, belongs to all of us, right? It's federal government land, which means it belongs to we the people, not the obscure, big government, whatever. No, it belongs to us. We pay to maintain it through our tax money. And these guys come in and literally shit all over it. And we let it go. We let it go. As if, the giant trench filled with poop left by these guys wasn't enough. Now they're saying they could have left other surprises. Explosives. Possible booby traps. And who knows what other kind of damage and other things that they left, right? After all, we did let them sit there for weeks at a time, letting them get away with who knows what. But what we do know is the damage, the cost of the damage. They estimated the cost of the cleanup and restoration would actually cost the taxpayers millions of dollars to repair the damage from these yahoos, these Al-Qaeda. It's really amazing. Now, they are actually looking at getting some of the occupiers to pay for this, and I hope they do. It's just another example of the Bundys and their supporters ruining federal land and expecting us, the taxpayer, to pay for it. Remember Cliven Bundy, who's also been arrested, who started this whole movement, right? By aiming guns at federal police because he owed money. He owed millions of dollars to the taxpayer for his cattle grazing on federal land and him not paying the grazing fee. Now you pay a little bit of a fee, right? And you get to graze on public land. That wasn't good enough for Bundy. He said, no, I'm going to take that land. And if you come to challenge me, I'm going to aim guns at you. And I'm going to get all my right-wing buddies over here to use violence or the threat of violence because I feel entitled to federal land. You're entitled to it if you pay the grazing fee. The Bundys are grifters. All right? They're stealing public property in order to enrich themselves. You think Cliven Bundy was poor? No. He was a cattle rancher. They actually do very well. Now, if you want to get into the argument of, okay, the federal government owns a lot of land out west, maybe they should sell it off to private people, privatize it a little bit. Okay, I'm a little mixed on that, right? I think there should be public land, and I also think that there should be private land. And if you want to have a discussion on maybe equaling that out, balancing that out over in the west, that's a good conversation to have. That's a worthy conversation to have. I think even the people in Burns, the ranchers in Burns, would agree and be like, yeah, we would like to have some negotiations. But remember, even the people in Burns said, Bundys, get the fuck out. We don't need you here. We don't want you here. You're actually ruining our progress. You're bringing it back. So you need to go. Now, thankfully, they're not there anymore. But as you can see, the damage seems to already have been done. I hope that they get these grifters to pay back every cent of what they took from the taxpayer, from you and me. And hope they also pay back the Paiute Tribe, who's seen their artifacts and their burial grounds literally ruined and shit on by these yahoos.